8,
You're watching
7,
Experience Comic Culture and Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
That was abrupt. Everybody, welcome. It's time to Minute to Skim It. That means looking at cool books that are coming out this week and telling you what they're about.
I almost fell asleep just there. That was weird. Okay, I'm back. I'm good. I'm here now.
You're totally back. Love it.
I think there's a bug in here.
Where is Jay? Jay is behind the scenes making everything run because Kyle is all the way in Baltimore.
And Jay has to get on a plane in like not many hours.
Yeah, we're making it work today because we know you guys love the show. So we will always be doing the things. Hey, Brian, how are you doing?
And I was surrounded by comics all day, so I had some time to read.
Nice. Lucky.
Although I didn't get to read during that time because I was busy telling people about comics. So it's turned into a whole thing.
Oh, it's horrible when you have to tell people about comics. Ugh.
Right, but it's like, you know, I didn't get to read the books until I got home.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to, it's one of those things like, oh, I was busy talking about other comics, not the comics that I'm supposed to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to get ready to talk about the other.
Wait till next week when
my brain is like 2 million miles a minute. So
you were at Disney. Speaking of going to somewhere really fun. That's a good excuse. Next week is going to be New York Comic Con week, so it's going to be.
Right, Miss Jen will be hectic.
I'll be distracted. I'll be very distracted. Oh,
it's true.
I'm excited, but also I feel bad about it, but I'm not the hugest fan of New York as a busy, bustly place. The people are lovely. It's too much all the time.
I'm bummed that I'm not going because we won't get to go to that diner that we go to.
Well, remember that diner closed. I don't know if it reopened as something, but
I think it did. But anyway,
yeah, baby.
But I'm very excited to not be going.
Also, not to be going.
Yeah, I'm very excited just to be able to go home and spend a couple of days at home and then go hang out with my nephew.
John wants us to tell him all about this week's books because there are some really good ones this week. Although it's very weird. I think this was like substance heavy week, but title light. There were less.
Well, I mean, I read more books than you did this week, which was weird too.
I know. Did you pinch yourself to make sure you were not sleeping?
No, I just knew I needed to read enough to cover for Jay, and that you would read what you could read. And it just turns out working out that way. So let's get into it because there's like a bunch.
Let's do it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I weirdly picked this book for two reasons, because in X-Men number 26, it was all tied to the Fall of X storyline. But more importantly, it was the lead-in book, there were two books that included the wedding of the White Queen and Tony Stark. Yeah, I know, my favorite character. It was because of that I wanted to see what the rollout was, because it was X-Men 26 and then it was the Iron Man number 10, and that those two covers connected and you could get the whole wedding cover that way. And I was thinking this might be tied to it, but it's not as tied. It doesn't actually really even mention that event at all. This is more about Kitty Pryde trying to figure out where the supposedly dead mutants are from the whole Hellfire Gala / Krakoa culling Orcus debacle. And in this book, she's found kind of a prison where they're holding some of them. And you also find out some other cool stuff, like you can kind of see there that Cyclops has got like sutures on his eyes. Well, when she goes to try to remove him from his shackles and stuff, she realizes that she can kind of see inside of him that they've got him booby trapped from the inside.
Oh, I thought maybe it was that they should have sutured his mouth.
No, he's truly booby trapped, so he can't be removed from there. And he doesn't seem to know that she's there either. And then also in prison there is another big character that Erwin loves. That she can't take them out of there, otherwise everyone will. So she's trying to locate all the rest of them in the facility before she decides to get them out. But yeah, this is like poor mutant kind, man. They're just taking it in the teeth. This is way less about, we've been focusing so much on Orcus and seeing what Orcus is doing. This is less about that and more about these characters trying to figure out how they can, recoup, because they're there's X-Men no more kind of feeling about the issue, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that Cyclops could be permanently trapped there and we never have to deal with him again. All right, so Abbott, 1979. So this is the third volume of Abbott from Saladin Ahmed. And if you've been following the story, you know who Abbott is and kind of her backstory. But what's happening in this book is you're seeing her. What is this? This is like 15 years after the first volume. And you can tell that her having her abilities and existing kind of in this world that she exists in with these, I don't know if you'd call them demons, but they're not demons.
Mm-hmm.
Has really taken its toll on her. And what you find out is that she has basically lost her job, lost her relationships, lost everything in this kind of plight. And she's really kind of hitting rock bottom. And then at the end of the book, there's a big twist. Something that you almost have expected for 2 volumes finally happens. But the way it happens and when it happens is not expected at all. And kind of the where it leaves you has the potential to be Abbott finally leaving Detroit, which is very interesting because in this book, Detroit is as important as anything.
Does the storytelling lean heavily on the date location for the character, or
not specifically? No. But in other issues it has. In other volumes it has. So, like I said, they're transitioning here somehow a little bit, and I'm not sure what it is yet. And to speak more directly to it would be to spoil a not insignificant plot point. So there are, the fact that she's still drinking a lot and smoking a lot and kind of strung out is not necessarily a significant plot point. But what winds up happening is the entire premise for the entire series.
Oh, love it. And John, the cover for this book is Taj Francis, which I had to look because my mind was telling me that it was Allison Sampson, because that is kind of her aesthetic. But no, it's totally somebody different who I'm going to have to follow now because I like that look. Ooh.
All right.
This is Rodney Barnes writing Alice Cooper. Shut the front door.
It doesn't feel like Rodney Barnes. It doesn't feel like Alice Cooper. It doesn't feel like the universe it's supposed to be in. It feels all wrong.
Oh.
If this was the old show, I would be right now tearing this book to shreds. Because I feel like this book is not at all what a book entitled Alice Cooper with this title should be. This book is hysterical.
It's funny?
Yes.
I wonder if Alice helped write it then, because that kind of seems like
right. No, it very much feels like Alice Cooper was involved.
yeah.
And he's a very lighthearted person despite his personality, but nothing about getting into this book would lead you to believe that this is a humor book. And it's not really, but it is, because it's very funny. Basically, you find out early in the book that the devil wants to be a rock star. And he's in hell with Elvis and Prince and all of these people, and like he's trying to impress them, and Prince is unimpressed. And right, no, that's what I'm saying, Pablo. It feels like, it doesn't feel like Rodney Barnes wrote it. It feels like Alice Cooper wrote it. Like, and if it said written by Alice Cooper, I would have had an entirely different approach to this book. So he, he
couldn't Georgia to be a rock star.
No. Essentially, what you find out is that in this book, Alice Cooper is the hero and the devil is the bad guy. The devil starts essentially in this issue eliminating his competition to be the biggest rock star in the world. There are incredibly hilarious panels where the devil is essentially eliminating Steven Tyler or other big rock stars. And the angel Gabriel appears to Alice Cooper and is like, look, you're going to have to be our last bastion of hope. And that's where the book picks up. So it's this kind of weird, it's not that the book is bad. It's that the book doesn't go where you expect it to go. Right? It's one of those, like, you expect this to be a little serious. It's a Dynamite book. You expect it to be a little serious. You expect it to be a little horror-y. You expect it to be a little more, straight than it is. And it really does feel like a book from a company like Ahoy, where the comedy is there. I wouldn't necessarily say it's good, funny, Pablo, but like, I was watching stand-up a few minutes ago and didn't laugh. So I'm maybe not the best judge of that today. So
he's had not enough sleep to be able to tell you whether something is funny.
Correct. Nothing is funny. Everything is bad.
You guys have not been around Kyle enough to know.
Right. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, I really like this book if it's written by Alice Cooper. I really like this book if it's written by Mark Russell or Fred Van Lente or one of those guys, right? That when you see their name on a book, you expect some jokes. I did not expect the jokes I got from Rodney Barnes. Maybe
he's just showing us he has some breadth.
Well, and Rodney Barnes got his start in TV on My Wife and Kids.
I didn't know that.
Damon Wayans. Right. No, I know Rodney Barnes can be funny, but again, it's just not what you expect when you see this cover and you see that name.
Mm-hmm.
It's a refreshing change of pace from what you expect.
Love it.
But it drove me absolutely up a wall, because I'm like, this is not what I thought I was reading.
How much you would have bet that Alice owns that original art? Because
I bet you. And here's the thing. And I'll ask Nick before I read the next issue, if they're doing kind of like they do with the Elvira book,
mm-hmm.
where I forget who writes the Elvira books. If they're collaborating, right? It's written by somebody, but they kind of talk and kind of figure out the language, the voice. And if that's the case, then this book is incredibly good.
Oh man,
I almost read this one.
Well, we could have both talked about it.
No, I didn't, because I knew you would read it, and I couldn't remember what happened in number 2.
Oh, okay. So I'll get everybody caught up. So this is part of that Texas Blood universe, which is very Western, very not like Western sci-fi or Western anything. It's Western. It's straight up like if you're, an adjacent universe to Tombstone or one of those other shows you really like. So the Enfield gang are basically, they are bad guys. They are criminals. They've been known to do the wrong thing. But at the very beginning of this series, in issue number 1, they get accused of knocking over a bank in which someone gets killed, even though it wasn't them, it was a different gang. So the second issue had them realize that they were being blamed and having the sheriffs and deputies come after them. And it was kind of like the story was just them trying to like rally all of their family members up to leave town because they know that they are, you know, the posse's after them. And it's just, it doesn't matter whether they did it or not because no one's going to believe them, right? So in this third issue, it is them having been cornered out in the open, kind of like they've got the sheriff and deputies and stuff are up on a bluff and they're down below, and their only cover is like their wagons and stuff, and it looks dire for them. And it's clear that the sheriff, etc., are not going to give them any kind of chance to have any like trial or anything. There's like a really brutal killing in the first couple of pages. It sets the mood and tone here. And it furthers the story a little bit more in that somebody attached to the storyline finds out the truth in the most unlikely of places, a witness that no one asked. It's like Forensic Files, but in the Old West. The first 48. I love it. What in the world? Oh, it's one of the trigger reads.
Right. So this is the feastiary of Cooking with Monsters. So I read Cooking with Monsters #1. And the thing about Cooking with Monsters is that I really thought it was like a manga that I was into, and it wasn't. I needed this book before I needed #1. This is your Pokédex for Cooking with Monsters. You read through this book and it tells you about all of these monster characters. There's really not a plot to this. It's just like a picture of the character and then a description. Like if you're at the zoo looking at the exhibit, you know, so you want to know about the Narwaletto. Okay, here's the thing about a Narwaletto, and it talks about it like it's a real monster, which is pretty cool. But it would have made the first issue a whole lot better if this had come out first. Overall, though, super fun, and I love this idea that we're getting here, where it's like alternate history Pokemon, or less cartoony, more based in reality Pokemon. Which is just super fun. Like I was with some people who are working on anime or manga today, and like looking at this with them was super fun because they're like, I can see what they're going for there, and we can kind of figure out kind of the world they're aiming for. So that to me made this book super interesting. But this is for Trick or Read. And is it my understanding, Jen, that Trick or Read is the new Halloween Comic Fest?
It is, and it also isn't as tied to like a big event, because in the past that event has been one single day where you should, you know, wear a costume into a store, and they might have a guest that is horror based or writing a book that's a spooky book or something like that. And it was a big event, but it never truly caught on, mostly because the date they always choose wasn't Halloween. And so it made a secondary date that was confusing to people about when to wear costumes, etc. So that now it's kind of like they are officially released today. You can start putting them out. So you can check with your LCS when they're going to do it, because they might be doing an event still. They might be saving them for Halloween for the kids. But there's a bunch of really neat titles that they put out for the release. And it's not quite as awesome as Free Comic Book Day when they put out like major plot points or first appearances and stuff in the books, but they're doing better than they ever were before. Like this seems like original content made for the release of the day instead of just a reprint of something that's already happened before, which we've sometimes gotten for this event. So the publishers are doing a much better job of trying to encourage it to be an extra reason to go to your LCS and go show them some love.
Absolutely. All right.
Ghouls. Oh, this was a lot of fun. So this is a big, thick prestige format book, which has got a bunch of stories in it. Like maybe as many as 8 by my recollection. And it's neat because there's a lot of different stories that feature characters that aren't necessarily the mainstream characters you're used to seeing. There is a Crush and Lobo story. You should know who those guys are. I'm trying to remember all the other ones. There's some really fun but still very spooky stuff. And because it's so thick, it's awesome. It doesn't feel like you're just going to blow through it. And the stories have some substance to them, right? But they're all like the first one has who's the DC character that doesn't have a face? Is that the question? The question. That he finds himself in the middle of a mystery in which somebody has shown up to some big Met Gala type event and dumped an entire truckload of, animal carcasses or raw beef or whatever on people and killed them. But there's a huge twist to it, which is really a lot of fun because that part seems very straightforward about the story. But the people that have been killed, there's some weird thing about them that's super cool. There's a bunch of awesome little cute stories. Red Hood is in one of them. If you're a fan of Doom Patrol, there's a Doom Patrol story. There's a Superman story, which is fun. So yeah, it's a ton of material. You can see it's real. It's one of those big, thick books. And I don't know, it's too expensive to like buy a bunch of them and hand them out at the door on Halloween, unless you're just, a rich fellow, which go for it, man. And by the way, this is a perfect reason to say, just go to your LCS and see if they have a bunch of inexpensive all ages books laying around that you can buy, or old free comic book day books that they'll blow out to you. Hand those out at the door along with a candy. Encourage some reading. Because I know that those houses are real popular in my neighborhood if you're giving away comics. Ooh.
Was I supposed to read this one?
I don't know. Did you put it down on your list?
I don't think I did, Jay.
No, but hey, there's another trick or read title that you can be looking out for.
Well, so the deal with Dark Spaces is this. This is one of those Scott Snyder kind of weird. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, I did put it down and then I didn't read it. So the deal with Dark Spaces is this is Scott Snyder doing things Scott Snyder would never get to do anywhere else. Kind of the things that happen generally on the digital first stuff. But this is something he took directly to IDW. We've read some of the regular Dark Spaces stuff. It is demonic horror, but it's got this weird sort of like almost like Black Eyed Kids vibe from Aftershock, that sort of
urban
rural myth. Well, not urban myth, but like rural American mythology.
Okay.
Not necessarily cryptids, but not necessarily not cryptids.
Okay.
Kind of that sort of Children of the Corn, the Black Eyed Kids, the Slender Man kind of thing, except with more demons in this, as opposed to like otherworldly sort of beings. So I didn't read this particular trick or read version of it, but if you're into that kind of stuff, this is a good pickup.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Brian, the DC book that I was showing you that has all the different content in it is a $10 book, which is why I was saying it was worth the price point because of how much stuff is in it.
So we just started getting the Image books, right? And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to jump into Spawn. In terms of smart things to do, that was not one of them.
Are they in the middle of the storyline?
Yeah, I have no idea what the heck is happening. And, Spawn is one of those, especially this King Spawn, that you needed to really start at the beginning of this story arc. Right? Now, Here's the other thing. It's Spawn. You can't really go wrong reading Spawn. I just wish I knew what the precursor to this book was, because it would make this book make a lot more sense to me. But basically, you have a number of the current villains in this series are sort of running amok, and Spawn seems to be nowhere to be found.
Oh.
Except that he's there, but he's kind of like watching in the shadows and kind of letting them do their things. And you get to the end of the book, and there's this like old woman who, like, in a big way, it feels like Spawn's mother.
Oh.
But it isn't. Like, but it kind of has that vibe, like, and what you come across at the end of the book is this idea of Spawn has finally found a way to be less immortal, but he can't be less immortal based on where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
So he needed this woman to help him, like, balance that.
Yeah, for some reason I thought that this series was specifically Spawn taking over the role that Melbourne once had and ruling over all of hell.
And it kind of feels that way. Like, that may be some of the detail I'm missing, is that it is Spawn kind of in hell, or Spawn in the afterlife of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
But like at the end of the book, this is how to resurrect yourself.
Oh.
Not necessarily this is how to escape hell. Now, is that what it means? And I don't know, because I didn't read 25. Maybe. But this book was very interesting. And whoever's doing the art on this is doing an incredible Todd McFarlane impression. This book was incredibly good looking. It was stellar. It was gorgeous.
All right. Ghost Rider and the Hoods. Okay, let me see if I can remember what's going on in here. I might have to give myself just a look. I have a big problem with like permanence after reading a bunch of X and Marvel titles. I don't know why that is. I used to be so much better at it. I do know it's Johnny Blaze. It's Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider. So can we say $2.99? Yeah, that's I think that Spawn titles are the only ones toeing the line still. I don't know how he does it, but he's still doing it. Okay, so in this series, he is pairing himself up with an occultist, an FBI agent named Talia Warroad, which I don't know where in the world that character came from, but this is all about basically like the need to control this book, which to me is weird. It looks like a face with skin being slapped on a book, but I feel like that's a book from some other TV show or something, and it's not that book. So I was like, I don't know where it came from, but the fight ends up basically having him cross paths with what is her name? Oh, I hate it when I can't remember people's names at all. The Elsa Bloodstone. With Elsa Bloodstone, which they have, they're not really get along people. So the Hood is part of this storyline. Hood is not a good guy, just so you know. Bad. Super bad. Really bad. So again, if you like the Hood and you miss the fact the Hood doesn't show up in hardly anything, this is the book for you. You finally get to see him. And it's Percy writing. So Percy's usually the Ghost Rider writer. So it's not like we're taking Ghost Rider out of its normal hands and throwing it into someone else's. So this is an annual, and annuals almost 100% of the time now for Marvel are single shot stories. So I think that's what you're getting here, because the number one annuals up until this point have been tied to the Contest of Chaos, and this is not.
I feel like the Hood is just knock off the cape. Anyway, Midnight Show by Cullen Bunn. Mama once said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
What? Read this book too. How is that possible?
And I think this is Cullen Bunn not saying anything at all to terrible monster movies.
What?
This is when the worlds bleed between reality and not reality in these monster movies, right? Like, I didn't love it. And the reason I didn't love it is because I didn't feel like this was a new idea. I felt like I'd read this comic before, where there's a movie playing that ended under mysterious circumstances and people died and there was tragedy. And then when people later on do that thing where they play stupid games and get stupid answers, by playing the movie, the worlds of horror and essentially the universal monsters start to bleed through into reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I was really looking for Cullen to take this in a direction that I hadn't seen before, and he hasn't thus far. And so while the book was fine, I think I was just expecting too much. And so my disappointment in this book is not in the writing. It's in it not living up to the incredibly high standard that I hold Cullen Bunn to, which is unfair because the book is actually very good. But so my review on this is, if you like the Universal monsters and you like the kind of creature feature idea of like a Svengoolie or a Elvira or one of those where they show B-list, D-list horror movies at night on the weekends, and you like the idea of maybe the line between reality and fiction is not so clear, this is the book for you. I just think I put too much on the fact that, oh my God, this is what Cullen Bunn is writing. This is going to be amazing. And it's in issue 1. I feel like maybe this book has a little bit of pilot episode syndrome. Yeah. Like he was trying to set so much up that it didn't all kind of come together the way as well as you'd hope. But that's what issue 2 is for.
That's what Kyle suffers from, expectation syndrome.
Very much. Like, again, it's when I read these authors like Cullen Bunn, who I know very well and whose work I thoroughly enjoy, I think I sometimes expect them to push the envelope or move the genre forward. Mm-hmm. And sometimes these guys just want to write a story. They don't want to be redefining classic horror at all hours. You know what I mean? And I just expect them to. And so again, this book is very, very good. It's just not, it just kind of reminds me of an episode of Warehouse 13. Mm-hmm. And so I was a little bummed by that. But again,
I thought was cool about the way I agree with you that the idea of someone taking a movie that everyone supposedly died while making, including the producer, or the director, and then having it, like, oh, we found the footage and we're going to play it, even though it's supposed to be a cursed film, whatever. Right. And then, the thing I liked about it is that the way that the pages are laid out, there are parts of it that you think to yourself, oh, this is happening in real life. So this is the movie bleeding through. Oh, wait, no, this might be part of the movie. Maybe we're just watching the movie right now.
Well, and see, that's the other thing, right? That, like, I think may hinder this book. Mm-hmm. In my reading is I read a PDF.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like I have the physical copy, so I can't see the page layouts, right? I only see a single page at a time. I can't look at the next page and say, oh, I see how this is bleeding through, or, oh, I see that. That's not how it looks. And so it really does feel very segmented.
Oh. So read the book. Don't read it as a digital
file. Yeah, no, for sure. And again, that, guys, when Jay and I are reading these PDFs, sometimes that's a detriment to the way the book is designed, right? These artists and writers have put in time to figure out interesting ways to ship. I spent $50 having my head shaved today. I'm not wearing a hat. but they spend a lot of time and energy coming up with creative ways to tell a story through page layout. And when they format it for PDF, they don't always do a good job of conveying that. And sometimes it hurts. So
it's the same
take
reason
what
why it's so hard / impossible to take web comics and just like people are all the time like, wow, they're making that web comic into a comic. It takes so much work that it's almost like remaking a comic.
Right. Absolutely. So I think that's probably part of it too. Like, Jen, you talking about you couldn't tell what was movie and what wasn't. I didn't have that problem, but I think it's because things were so split, you know, in the PDF that it didn't really translate that way.
What do we need on a shirt? Do we need Richard Ship or
No,
Ship yelling,
we
no
got
hat,
I spent
dang it,
$50
man,
having
dang
my head
it.
shaved. No, I think I spent $50 getting my head shaved.
And
By the
Ship
way,
offers
if
to
you've
shave
never
your
had if you've never had a professional barber shave your head with a straight razor, like, you're missing out. I don't care if you actually have hair or don't, you're missing out. It's amazing.
Ah. God, so we've been waiting on this cool Hickman stuff. And I'm sorry that you've got two awesome Hickman things rolling out kind of at the same time. It's the one thing that angers me so about the release schedule for a great many Marvel things is that they don't let any series really, really breathe. Because we're now on issue 4 of his other big universe rollout with the Ultimate stuff. And then you've got, Gods, which is another huge storyline that's just, I mean, this is a real thick, dense, crazy book, which I swear that I saw the first lead in, like they had an ash can or a lead in story or an alpha or something, but I don't know what it was because they actually have the last 4 pages, 2 pages, whatever the spread like this is, from whatever I read before, which I suppose I could have gotten a PDF maybe, are the first 2 pages of this book, which is really strange standing there and handing the book, which I'm assuming is the what is that one called? The dark. What's the one that the queen has?
Are you talking about a Marvel book?
Darkhold. Thank you. Yeah. So you've got him handing it off to this other character who they say his name multiple times, and I cannot tell you who in the world this person is. I don't know if it's a brand new character or if it's a character that they're bringing into the storyline that I just haven't come across before. He looks like a total, awesome character. And so part of the storyline is about this character, who this other guy is that he hands off the Darkhold to. That character is in a relationship with a girl who they're married, but somehow by fate, she has been called to be part of this ancient godlike group that has been forever warring with and is the complete opposite of another group who this other guy is part of. So basically, as part of the storytelling, there's tons of other stuff going on. She essentially says we have to get divorced just because of this thing, because we can't be married and also be warring with each other all the time. It just isn't going to work. And I can't say no to being asked to be part of this thing. And you are part of this thing, and you cannot deny being what you are at your core, which just think that these two things are godlike beings. So it's heartbreaking, honestly, because he says you can send over the divorce papers, but I'm not going to sign them. So she basically lays it down. It's like, you're going to sign the papers or I'm going to have to kill you. That's the 2 choices we have. I don't know why that makes any sense, because if they're mortal enemies in this story, why would it matter whether they were married or not and trying to kill each other? I don't know. Maybe they could just try to kill each other during the day, kind of like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then, at night get together and, work it out.
JD, I'm not asleep. I'm just trying to remember what the next book I read was.
The devil that wears my face.
So did you guys see that movie, The Pope's Exorcist? This book is nothing like that.
No, I was going to say no.
But it wants to be. This is a story of what happens when you think you know how things should work and you don't know anything. The premise of the book is there's the Demon Legion, who you know from the movie Legion starring Rebecca Romaine.
And the
And
Bible.
well, I don't know that everybody knows the Bible like you do, Miss Jen. So we're gonna go with the terrible Rebecca Romaine movie.
Okay.
Also with the kid from Friday Night Lights and NCIS New Orleans. Anyway, and was Paul Bettany in that movie? I think he was. Anyway, it's kind of like that. That demon has been essentially captured and imprisoned, and he's living inside a person's body. Priest after priest after priest is trying to exorcise this demon. And the demon is just, was it Adrian Palicki?
Oh, you lose
It
your
was
nerd
Annie.
card. You lose your nerd card now.
No,
Sorry.
it was Annie. Okay, you're right. I'm trying to block out her bad movies. Let's be real. Anyway. The demon keeps eating the priests. Until finally this last priest shows up and he's a little cocky and he's got some secrets and he knows some stuff. And the demon takes its vengeance and he turns into the devil that wears my face. I don't want to go deeper than that because it really is all relevant to the plot in terms of spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to kind of say the things that David Pepose had told you when we talked to him.
Yeah.
But the thing I will say about this whole thing is don't sleep on Alex Cormack's work on this. This is very different than other things we've seen Alex Cormack do. If you've read Crossing, which he did, that's different than his work with what's the other company, Miss Jen? I bought a whole box of it from you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Comics Tribe, but there's still another one that he's worked on. This is very different than a lot of other Alex Cormack stuff. I think we're reaching peak Alex Cormack. So the art in it's a dark book. That might be the PDF formatting. It might be the art style they've chosen. So there are some panels where it's like, what is happening there? But overall, just incredible looking and really good storytelling.
Transformers is exactly what meets the eye. It is a Transformers book. It is okay. So this is the way I'm going to explain it to you. So when I always approach books like this, I am like Kyle was for maybe the Alice Cooper book or whatever, where I know what I could be seeing, which is a kind of a straightforward Transformers tale, which is awesome because it's Transformers. But what I'm really secretly hoping for is a totally wonderful, character-driven story, which just happens to have some Transformers in it, kind of like Void Rivals has been. So maybe I should have just learned that Void Rivals is the book they're writing for me, and Transformers is the book they're writing for people that love Transformers. So it is very Transformery, and it's all tied to the Energon universe. So if you are super knowledgeable about that storyline, you'll be hyped to see that because it doesn't happen in the, I don't know, it's like way farther forward than like we just met Transformers. Like Transformers in this don't even seem to know what humans are. They're like, what are these small creatures? So that's very different, right? So I think it's going to be a big hit. I know it's already pre-sold out at distribution. They've already gone to second print. There's a ton of really beautiful covers because they made a ton of regular open order variant covers. And then there were like store variants and stuff that are out there. So I'm sure you can track down just anyone you want. And it has a lot of your favorite Transformers that are part of it. So buy it. Go stand at the front door of your LCS because I don't know how many they ordered, and it might be gone by the time you get there. So don't wait. Just call them tonight and say, put one in my box, yo.
All right. Now this is actually a book that I like have fundamental issues with. And here's the fundamental issue. The first 2 pages, they have timeline markers where it's okay in the future on a foreign planet. And then in the second page has a in the here's where we are. And then they abandon it, but they keep jumping back and forth, and I'm so exhausted I couldn't follow. But here's the deal. This is the Power Rangers somehow in the future, but somehow in the past. Like it's like Star Wars. We're in the future. We're out in deep space, but also somehow it's the past. But there's like spaceships and stuff. And it's the very beginnings of training to become a Power Ranger, right? Like these are students in what will be the Power Rangers Academy, essentially.
Okay.
These are the future Rangers, not the ones from Earth, the ones from space, the space alien ones.
Okay.
But like this book jumps around timeline wise and narrative wise and story wise. And again, maybe it's something that is easier to read in print format than it is in digital format, but it just became hard to follow. Okay, now which group is this and where are they and why are they there? Because also everybody kind of looks the same. Like the art style doesn't really differentiate how the people look too much, other than like their hair is vaguely different, but like all their facial features are kind of the same. And now that may be because they're space aliens and that's how those space aliens look. But it makes it incredibly tough to follow when you're like having to divert 30% power to keeping your eyes open.
This is what happens in the future when genetically we've modified our genes so much that we all look beautiful.
And that may be it. Like, I'm definitely interested in seeing where this goes, because the one story really is a group of them essentially shipwrecked on Tatooine. Right? Like,
okay, I can get to that.
This is a direct Star Wars ripoff, and I'm interested to see how the Power Rangers play in a Star Wars ripoff. But it really is sort of a one of those that maybe it should have been a trade. Maybe it should have been a manga, but it doesn't really feel like it fits the format that it's being presented in. So, ooh, okay, all right. We go from the book I had the most problem with to the book I thought I was going to dislike the most, and the book I thought I was going to have the most problem with, and I wound up not. So, minor spoilers: Jack the Ripper is a member of the Borg Collective.
Of course.
So this is it says it right on the cover, the Halloween issue. Basically what you have happen is there is a malfunction in the holodeck, and it becomes like a portal through time and space, except that history is a little off kilter because, again, Jack the Ripper is a Borg Collective member.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings through with him a number of other famous, historically scary things. I'm not saying zombies, but I'm not saying zombies. And I'm not saying other serial killers, but I'm not saying other serial killers. And I'm not saying like Hannibal Lecter, but I'm not saying Hannibal Lecter. You know, like it all of a sudden this turns into a bottle episode on the Enterprise with some of the most dangerous things from throughout history, and the holodeck just keeps spitting them out. This was very fun. Because it's like, where do you run from these things when you're on a spaceship?
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. All right, so this is an ash can called Bad Girl. So if you're wondering, you're like, oh, I remember this creative team. So this is an offshoot of the series Good Boy, which is itself kind of loosely a parody of John Wick, but reversing the roles of the dog and the man. And that is the only similarity, really, because it has that as a premise, but the book isn't really just a retelling of John Wick. It's totally not. But that has already been through 3 volumes, and it's been amazing. But this is a different character that's tied into that universe. I don't even know that we've actually seen this character yet. But the thing I didn't really glom onto until this issue is that in the universe of Good Boy, there are lots more humans around, because I kind of, in my brain, the John character is the only one I remember seeing, and mostly everybody else is dogs. But I was like, oh yeah, there are the other mafioso guys. So this is a little snippet of the cat character here, who is quite obviously another assassin person, who we see kind of at a low point. They're sitting at the bar. It's clear they've drunk a lot of drinks. And it is just a little capsule of them being at the bar, and then some guy showing up and sitting real close to her at the bar and trying to make nice talk with her. And the way she addresses him and the way all of that rolls out is so beautiful. And it is truly the best things that you love about big bar fights with guns and using other objects that aren't really meant for fighting with, and reasons for not using your gun. The reason she doesn't want to shoot her gun is pretty funny. So yeah, join in here at the Ash Can, and then put it on your pull list. Just make sure, if you are a Good Boy follower, and if your pull block says, I want everything Good Boy, make sure that you add Bad Girl if you don't think your comic shop will glom onto the fact that they're related. And if you don't want Bad Girl, and your comic book shop is smart and knows that it's tied to Good Boy, make sure you tell them before they order a ton for you. It's really awesome. The Ashcan does not feel like Ashcan paper, by the way. It's a real glossy cover. It's so beautiful.
All right, I just got an answer back from Nick on is Alice Cooper involved in his book? He is, but not as closely as Elvira is with David Avalon on the Elvira books. So that does make the book, take that whole book up a level, because it does really now kind of feel like, oh, Rodney is talking to Alice Cooper and understanding his voice and getting his humor. So I adapt my review. Next thing. We are running out of time, so we got to go fast. Tear Us Apart number 2. So you have Romeo and Juliet lost in the woods after escaping what seems to be a cult of some kind that trains killers. As it turns out, this cult is funded by what I think is a secret government organization. And the thing about the secret government organization is they are angry that this has happened. And so the hunt continues, and the kids meet a little, they find a respite, but they don't really know what to do, because the respite they find is as unnerving as you can imagine. If you're alone in the woods and all of a sudden there's like someone to help you out of nowhere that you didn't know existed. So that's my short review for Tear Us Apart number 2.
That's beautiful. I didn't know that I wanted to read that.
Oh, I thought we had more, Jay. So I will expand upon that a little bit. It goes from just being straight Romeo and Juliet to a little bit Hansel and Gretel.
Oh.
So just that adds into it. So
by the way, just another reminder, other than those not Halloween Comic Fest, but Trick or Reads that are going to be available at your LCS. This week is a very heavy release week for both manga and regular trade paperbacks. There's things like the 12th volume of Chainsaw Man, which I know should make you lose your mind, because everyone's been waiting on that for a long time. The second book in the Clementine series. Clementine's a character out of the Walking Dead universe. Clementine, volume 1 in Eisner, or 2 or 3, I can't remember how many. And other big things, Parasocial by Alex DeCampi is out as a hardcover book. Volume 2, Omnibus of The Witcher. And to me, the most important book that's releasing this week is Lore Olympus Volume 5, which should make you lose your mind. Or someone that you love, because everyone loves that book.
I picked up a graphic novel at a place called Charm City Books the other day that I've been reading here. I just want to take a minute and recommend Molgoth by Kate Leith.
Yeah, it's a book that we somehow missed ordering, but we had a customer that wanted it, so we have one inbound. I've also heard big things.
It's fantastic. It's not necessarily an all ages graphic novel, but it's an all access graphic novel. Like it's not a manga, but it feels like an American made manga. And it, like I said, there's no a younger kid could read it, and when I say younger, I mean late middle school maybe, and take certain things away from it, and a grown person could read it and take other things away from it. Very good.
Perfect. I love it. And I think that's it. We did a great review. Make sure you hit up your LCS. Tell them what you need.
As always, visit comicshoplocator.com to find a comic shop near you. I'm visiting a comic shop tomorrow afternoon that I found on Comic Shop Locator.
Well done. And if I don't see you guys between now and then, which I should, because I'll be here for a review show next week, New York Comic Con is upon us. So if you're in that area, I will try to announce a gathering as long as I'm not completely booked. I usually have a really early morning breakfast meetup, it's a buy your own breakfast, but we do get to all hang out together. So
very cool. All right. Thank you, Miss Jen. Thank you, Jay.
All right, Kyle, go get some rest at some point today. Thanks everybody for joining us. Stick around for more programming, and hey, or if you want to buy new books, I'll be popping on to the Comic Book Shopping Network here in just a second. But thank you so much for joining us on The Experience. We appreciate your support. Thank you for your shares, likes, and thumbs ups. See you later.